we must make sure that he gets out of the way so that we can begin a new pattern of dealing with these very, very serious issues. There are such serious issues like Lieutenant General Mkwanazi made public. Then the first thing that you would expect in a normal democracy was for such a minister to be fired, to step down. And then begin from there. You do not say, let us put him on paid leave, let us cover for him, let us make as if nothing has happened because we're going to have another judicial commission that will take, I don't know how long, 3 months, 6 months. In the meantime, the rot goes on. And the thing is, it's not just...
Guys, so the calls for the resignation of President Cyril Ramaphosa are really getting heated. So this, I think he's the president, or probably I think he's the, I think probably we could call it the president of the Walter and Albertina Sisulu Foundation. So let's say the Walter Sisulu Foundation. They've decided to take the bull by the jugular, right? To force President Cyril Ramaphosa out. So in other words, they are thinking of going along the way of the DA, but now not in terms of a vote of no confidence, but an outright call, probably through signatures and all of that, to push the president out of power. And why? What's the reason for this? He's actually arguing that it actually appears that South Africans especially, have found themselves in a space of leadership where there's a lack of what he calls genuine leadership, all right? So I think I've also heard this a lot from some of the analysts I've been listening to about the fact that, they're just really, they seem or feel to be roving around a certain South Africa where they don't understand how the leadership is being done, but a country that just keeps on surviving. So this Dr. Alan Bosak argues that South Africa is lacking genuine leadership. They need leadership in a country that can dish out accountability, that can dish out accountable governance. Dr. Alan Bosak actually argues that South Africa needs a kind of leadership that can account for itself, that can deliver good governance and service delivery to its people. He's actually castigating, or probably what many in colloquial terms would say slamming President Ramaphosa for having this pattern of evading responsibility, of evading accountability. And this comes in the wake of the fact that he thinks that President Ramaphosa just missed an opportunity to salvage himself in the eyes of many South Africans, especially in the wake of this Semzo Umchunu's allegations from General Mkwanazi, arguing that probably what they would have expected was for him to have come out and say, fire this, fire that, fire everyone involved. But what we see is the setting up of another judicial commission of inquiry, which will take such a long time. They really do not understand this approach to accountability, this approach to meeting governance. And as a result of that, he says that he must make sure the Walter Sisulu Foundation is poised to make sure that Ramaphosa gets out, and arguing also that this whole thing with the national dialogue that's coming up, we know that the DA has decided not to take part, which waters down already the efficacy of the national dialogue. Because what's the national dialogue without the DA party in South Africa? If we argue that South Africa is a multiracial, multi-ethnic, let's say what Helen Zille loves to use, non-racial society, what's the DA or the representatives of the DA in a national dialogue? It's already watered down. Now, the president of the Walter Sisulu Foundation argues that this national dialogue, according to him, seems to just be a cover for the failures of the government in providing service delivery, in providing accountability for its leaders and leadership and all of that. And so to him also, it actually doesn't make sense. And really powerful statement, this president. I've never really listened to him, Dr. Alan Bosak, but he's really making a lot of sense that if followed through, the DA might not stress itself with this whole thing with the commission of vote of no conflict, because at the end of the day, if you listen to one of the powerful African commentators, his name is Professor Lumumba from Kenya. He argues, most times he says, Vox Populi, Vox Dei, that the voice of the people is the voice of God. And this is one of the things you see in Kenya. Many of the young people have decided that enough is enough. The people of Kenya are beginning to take the responsibility of civil society organizations, demanding and following up every step, just like what we're seeing the DA and Patriotic Alliance do now, especially in the representation of Karabo Cacao from the DA, and there's this really interesting fellow from the Patriotic Alliance that have actually been doing fantastic interrogative job, a fantastic interrogative job at the portfolio committee, and that's where most of these expositions and expose have been coming out, that actually found that Nobule Mkabane of the Ministry of Higher Education actually enrolled or employed cadres in the board that was supposed to decide, I think, some of the issues on the education board, so to speak. And so these guys fished it out, and that's where SA now has meat to fight, especially in the wake of the fact that Andrew Whitfield was fired on the spot because of his trip to the US, not acquiring what the ANC argues is appropriate permission. But at the end of the day, we have an ANC that has still retained a Similane and an Nkabane in parliament, despite the fact that the likes of Elenzile argues that what they have committed to South Africa is fraud. And in the time of apartheid, even in the time of the period of apartheid, there was a John Foster and I think a certain Mulder, who were leaders at the time, who were forced out of the government because of this kind of lying to parliament, which was the fact that, fraud could not be condoned by the government. Well, today we are seeing that condoning of fraud, and yet these ministers are still serving in parliament. Willie Ockham argues that they don't need this kind of ministers because it's setting a precedent, painting government in South Africa in a certain light where people are unable to trust government going forward. So this is where I think this president of the Walter Sisulu Foundation is actually calling for, arguing that there has to be a wake-up call for the people to rise up and start demanding that this leader actually gets kicked out, because really he feels that South Africa is not experiencing genuine. Let's quickly listen to very powerful analysis. I'll actually advise you guys watch to the end. Very powerful analysis. He tries to break down a lot of the things he sees in the leadership of President Ramaphosa and sets up a precedent, a powerful reason for why South Africans need to come out in mass to probably demand a resignation of this president. And let's have a robust discussion around this, because this is actually what's going on around now in Africa. In Togo, we are seeing demonstrations. In Kenya, we are seeing massive demonstrations going forward. Is South Africa going to be the next? Share your thoughts, guys, in the comments.
Now, over the past couple of days, we've seen a number of protests taking place in the country, be it protests in support of the KZN Police Commissioner, Mkwanazi. But at the same time today, we've also seen a number of protests calling for President Cyril Ramaphosa to step down. You are also calling for President Cyril Ramaphosa to step down from his position, and this follows those corruption allegations.
Yes, that is correct. Good evening, Mbaling. Good evening to your viewers. Yes, we have made this call over the weekend. The statement came out in the beginning of the week. And since then, there have been a number of organizations, as you say, that has echoed this call for the president's resignation. Now, if you read the statement, you will notice that the language that we employ is quite serious. And it is serious and strong because the crises that we are facing, not just as one crisis that blew up when Lieutenant General Mkwanazi made all of those revelations and allegations, but the crises that have been seen across the life of South Africa, politically, socially, economically, and we have come to the conclusion that it is one of the main reasons is the appalling lack of genuine leadership that we have been experiencing from this president almost from the beginning. And so we thought that if you have to begin somewhere, the first thing that needs to happen is for this president to resign.
At the same time, I know that your statement, says a number of issues, and one that also you tackle as the foundation is the issue around, failing to act appropriately when it comes to the corruption allegations leveled against basically the law enforcement in our country. When it comes to the Commission of Inquiry, which has been set up, we've seen a number of people expressing their views since Sunday. What is your take as the foundation, and now that we've seen the president taking a decision to have another Commission of Inquiry to look into these allegations?
Well, you have mentioned the key word here, yet another Commission of Inquiry. The fifth, I think, in this president's tenure, which leaves us with a pattern of evading responsibility, evading to take the actions that are needed, evading perhaps most of all, accountability. Now, when a minister, in a normal democracy, when a minister has been accused of such serious issues like Lieutenant General Mkwanazi made public, then the first thing that you would expect in a normal democracy was for such a minister to be fired, to step down. And then begin from there. You do not say, let us put him on paid leave, let us cover for him, let us make as if nothing has happened because we're going to have another judicial commission that will take, I don't know how long, 3 months, 6 months. In the meantime, the rot goes on. And the thing is, it's not just the police service as police services. There now we are talking about connections with crime syndicates. It involves not just police people, it involves judges, it involves politicians. It is a shocking state of affairs. And we have waited for more than a week, Mbali, for the president to even say a single word about this. And after that week, he comes out with this very watery statement and then announces a commission of inquiry. Now, that is not what the country needs. That's not what we want. That is not what is absolutely necessary now. Is for this president to at last begin to take some firm action. He's not going to. So the thing is, we must make sure that he gets out of the way so that we can begin a new pattern of dealing with these very serious issues that the people of South Africa have been facing for such a long time.
Mr. Busako, will you be engaging with the president of the country following his actions, following these revelations from the KZN Police Commissioner? We also know that there is that national dialogue which is coming up in August. Will you at all be engaging with the president when it comes to the seriousness of these allegations leveled against various sectors in the country?
Well, we have been public, and I have personally been, in my personal capacity, as a preacher and as an academic, have been speaking about these crisis issues for the last maybe 4 or 5 years, especially the last 2 years. And the president knows exactly where to find us in Bali. If the president has any intention of speaking to any of us, he could have picked up the call, he could have summoned me, he could have said, please come and talk to me here in Pretoria or down in Cape Town, and I would have gone. Because there is reason to speak to this president about these issues. But that has not happened. The national dialogue, of course, is a totally different matter. The national dialogue, I see personally, is no more than a cover for the failures of the government over the last 30 years, and also especially the GNU, which has not gained any of the confidence of the people whatsoever. You cannot deal with our issues with a long, drawn-out national dialogue. We need decisive, quick action. We have ourselves proposed a progressive People's Assembly, and we are coming to people across the country. We have meetings with grassroots organizations, not from the top down, as the president's dialogue is, not with elite groups and foundations, but with organizations from the bottom up. And we have been having these conversations for more than a year now, and we will get that assembly together, and there we will fashion not just our instinctive the rejection of what we see right now, but there we will fashion a new vision for South Africa's people that we think we need to follow immediately.
Dr. Busako, thank you so much.